with amazing hospitals and facilities to utilize. And I utilized a lot of them. When I would get results of tests back and I would send them to Cleveland, they would sometimes look at this and be like, "You're kidding me. What are you doing walking on the street? Get your butt down here right now." And I would. And they would do the same tests over and get different results. And these are from top hospitals, and me being, I don't have a medical background, I have a financial background. I didn't understand how equipment, one could be so different than the other. So that I always did. I would always go down to Cleveland, and I am now probably the preacher of how important, your heart is, your life is, and to have a good diagnosis. Because I was diagnosed as fine here in New York. I went down to Cleveland, I was admitted immediately into the hospital with endocarditis. And they kept me there for a solid 10 days on antibiotics, and then they put me on intravenous antibiotics for another 6 weeks. If that wasn't detected, now again, what would have happened? This is an infection attacking my heart that has just gone through a ton. So anyway, I get through all that, I'm still having fun traveling. And with all the damage that the chemo did to my heart, I had to go down to Cleveland one more time. And it's once again one of those humorous things, like, fly down Cleveland, you think, oh, the snow, the rain. I finally get down there, the plane's 3 hours late, the flight cost me whatever. And my cardiologist down there, Dr. Starling, says, we don't need to do the esophageal, where they put a camera down your throat. We're just going to do an echo, which is just like, kind of like a sonogram. And I'm so mad because I'm like, I came all the way down here. I want an invasive procedure done to me, So he looks at me, he goes, "Michelle, you don't understand. Your heart is leaking so bad from the chemo. We don't need to put a camera down your throat. We can see it just with the, the camera on your chest." So then I start crying, and I'm like, "Dr. Starling, I'm only kidding. I don't mind paying for the flight. Just let me go home." So he said, "No, you need another surgery." And I said, "Okay, if Dr. McCarthy can take me right now, I have such great faith in him, I'll go right now. If not, it's the holidays. It was Christmas last year." I said, "Let me at least go home for the holidays." And so I came back in January, which was 2003, right after New Year's, and I knew all the doctors were back and, hangovers were gone. And Dr. McCarthy went in there, he replaced my aortic valve, and such a phenomenal job on my heart when a different technician came in, a cardiologist, to just do an echo on my heart. He didn't have my whole history. And he looked at my heart on the screen and he said, "You have a heart of anybody else." He goes, "You just have, a replaced mitral valve, a replaced aortic valve, and a pacemaker." Well, there was not a dry eye in that room. My parents were crying, my friends were crying, because they had known how much Dr. McCarthy had removed in my heart. And yet it had regenerated after all the hell it had been through in that past year with the chemo. And, it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. And here I am, a year later, but I'm swimming a mile in the pool. Planning on doing at least a 5K, okay? It's not a marathon, but it's a 5K. And I don't have a need to be that crazy workout person anymore. And I think that's why I'm not on the treadmill doing, 10 miles every day. Because I guess when you go through something like that and you realize how important life is, and kind of to go out and smell the roses, or like on a bright sunny day like today, just to kind of get your face in the sun, it's more important than being in the gym on a treadmill for 3 or 4 hours a day. So, I send people down there all the time, and I get on the phone to people who are like, "Well, it's far," and, I said, "Listen, I could have gone anywhere on the planet and had the resources to do it through friends. and this is your heart you're talking about, or whatever it is, don't you want the best? Because if you don't have the best, you're not going to be here tomorrow to talk about, oh yeah, it was convenient, or, I didn't make that trek, or, my family couldn't come see me. Well, we're all we have, the person who we are. And, thanks to the amazing staff down there, I'm here to to talk to people and, be who I am. So it's a wonderful thing. There's nothing more I can say that except you would be looking at an empty chair if it wasn't for Cleveland. So, and I don't forget that. They're on my Christmas lists, and I get that back the same from them whenever I call. It's a huge place, but they don't forget who you are, which is it's a big thing to say.
This is the hardest interview I've ever done.
Why?
You're phenomenal. Wow. Okay, couple more questions.
Sure.
When you first decided to do the surgery at the clinic,
Yeah.
how freaked out were you?
Well, I have to say I wasn't that freaked out. From talking to a surgeon who had studied under two, I didn't know the clinic then. And you know what? I realized it's a shame how ignorant I was. I knew my little local area, and I knew the Mayo Clinic, but they're not even in the running. And when I talked to this gentleman who had studied under one that I knew very, very well, and probably most of the world does, and he studied under Dr. McCarthy in Cleveland Clinic, and he just was like, it's a no-brainer. This is the top place. You know what? That made up my decision right then. There was just no turning back for me. And I have to tell you, I had a couple of people in the medical profession that were a little annoyed with me, because you know what? I am a young person who has a great track record of being healthy, and this is something that is so rare that doctors never see it in their whole entire life. So if you're a doctor, you'd want to do this, because this is a pretty good chance of you getting to see it and somebody surviving.
What I'm talking about is your mortality.
My mortality?
When do you think you faced that?
I didn't. My surrounding group kept me so out of how insanely serious this was that it probably took to the morning of being in Cleveland when I was on the table. But you know what? It's insane. They set me up in like this little kind of suite and injected me with, a drug that put me out. And I can't even tell you, I didn't even know what an operating room looked like. So the last time you would have laughed hysterical with me, because at me, actually, I was sitting there with all these gurneys. I'm in a place with say 6 gurneys, and I'm cracking jokes. This man next to me, he's getting this crazy procedure with this whole aortic, your whole thing, not just your valve, replacement. It's this, crazy technology that this piece of equipment is going to be put in his chest. And I'm sitting there telling him, it's my 3rd. Don't worry about it. You're in great hands. Nothing's going to go wrong. You and I are going to be laughing about this tomorrow. You know what? We were. He saw me the next day in the hall, and the two of us are kind of limping around a little bit because we're sore. And he's like, how you doing? And I'm like, great. How you doing? He's like, thank you. It's just such a great experience. My mortality was probably the night before my last surgery. Even my last, because I was scared. And that was the first time it probably really hit in after I'd gone through chemo, and I was down there, and I had a tear in my eye. But I have to tell you, if I was in another hospital, I think I would have been a mess. I mean, when I went in for chemo my first time, I was supposed to go in on August 11th. I spiked 104 fever out of nowhere. I was so scared. And they had to make me come back September 11th. I was just put into such ease down there and told that my percentages of dying on the table, and I knew it was so low, they don't take, they didn't take kind of like cavalier actions, like, really throw a lot of painkillers in me. They did everything to make sure that I would survive. And that's the biggest thing, and I knew if I was on that table and something went wrong, that Dr. McCarthy could put another heart in me and sew me up. And I'd get up the next day and be like, hey, got a little pain here, a little, burn there. But I just knew I was in the best hands. So it's crazy to say, did mortality hit me? Sometimes it hits me after walking down the road and I go, oh my God, do you know I almost died? And then people think there's nothing wrong with me. And then they look down and they're like, wow, you got a couple scars on you. And I'm like, yeah, I forgot. I forget when I hear about people, like older people having bypass surgery and I go, oh my God, having your chest cracked open. Oh, ooh, it gives me the chills. And then like a friend of mine will like bump me and they go like, hello, like, you've had 3 times open. And I go, oh yeah, I don't think about it, just because I was never in pain before. I never felt sick, so.
Do you have to change tape?
We're at 24.
Okay, but then we can probably finish on this one.
Okay.
Actually, we're at 25, 30.
Okay. You're in a section that's called Impact, and you just did the most unbelievable interview. It's just fabulous. What I need you to talk about is the impact that the Heart Center is going to have on the profession and on patients and on kind of the future of medicine, because that's what this is all for.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And I need you to use the word impact.
Okay.
Okay. So, what do you think the impact of this new, state-of-the-art, best in the world Heart Center is going to have on patients, the profession, future research? Why is it important?
I think, right now I'm living proof. How is it important? And by, far none, people around the world should be aware of Cleveland Clinic. And, it's interesting when you do go down there, you do see people who have amazing resources to say are down there because they have that ability for people to work for them like somebody worked for me. And they know the impact that it'll have on their lives and to make sure that they will be around. But for here I live in New York City, which people would think has the best technology and cutting edge. I can tell you it's not. Cleveland Clinic, with this new building and this new heart center, I don't see how you could go anywhere else. The impact that the impact of the experience of Cleveland Clinic that it would have on your life, you can't replace that anywhere. You can't find it anywhere. I feel so ignorant to not have known about it before. And I wish I could tell everybody about it because, not everybody has those resources. And when you go down there and you see some of the top people around the world down there, why can't, little Joe and John and Mom and Pop know about it too? It's right at our